Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today's guest, Aaron Branch, Director of Social Agendas. Aaron, I welcomed you, I think it was earlier this year, or was it end of last year? I don't know.
I think it was earlier this year.
It was earlier this year. Yeah, awesome. Well, Aaron, obviously you are in the digital marketing space, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Getting that brand out there, growing as a business, and obviously we're going to dive into some really interesting topics and hopefully answer some questions that the audience may be thinking who are watching. So, Aaron, welcome back, and it's a pleasure to have you on, mate.
Thank you so much. Honestly, every time you invite me, I've made some really great relationships based on the last piece of content we did together, and hopefully we can do the same now.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it. Well, what I want to start with, Aaron, is sort of go down in a structure of, for those that might be new to marketing, I suppose, as a whole, and then getting sort of more into the crux of it towards the end and the detail, is day one. Marketing at the moment is extremely big. Everything from social media to still using that website to learning how to use cameras, just really get your brand out there. Everything is in the detail. The devil's in the detail. For someone who's starting out, going in, well, literally the new year is around the corner. What is the first thing someone should be looking at as their business plan and building in marketing? Like, how important is it from day one?
Well, first of all, obviously I'm biased because it's my business and it's my career. But of course, I'd say it's probably behind sales and having a great product or service. It is the top priority, because marketing, for me, you can just translate it into influence and persuasion. It's your tool to influence and persuade potential customers, collaborators, or even potential, shareholders of the future, investors in your business, to actually be able to influence and persuade them to come closer to you. That is what marketing for me is all about. When you talk about day one, the thing, I can only go off my own experience with Social Agendas. We're in coming up to our sixth year now, and we've had no external investment in this business. I've got another business which we have, but for this one, it's completely bootstrapped. And the only way I was able to achieve that was really just two words, and it's personal brand, which is very popular to talk about, but it's really simple. You simply need to put out yourself in your marketplace, and there's so many ways to do it. And without going into too much detail, the real power of having a personal brand in the modern kind of ecosystem we're all operating in, especially through social media, is that you can build trust extremely fast. And the only obstacle that any of us have to making a sale, getting an investment, that real huge thing that is in the way of most of those transactions taking place, from my experience, is just generating trust and being able to find, influence, persuade, and build trust is always the precursor to anything good really happening in your business. So personal branding, it's spoken a lot about, but for me in my journey, the first thing I did, you speak about setting up cameras and all of that stuff. The first thing I did was I went to Argos, and I had an Argos credit card. I had no money. So I got a credit card on Argos, and I bought a Nikon DSLR camera because I thought those are what good cameras are supposed to look like, the big chunky ones. Got the stock lens on it. My partner fortunately did an A-level in photography. She'd completely forgotten everything that she'd learned back in the day at college, but she still knew how to click a button and make sure the lighting was correct on the auto setting. So she just followed me around. I wore all of my suits that I had from a previous job in recruitment. I literally just changed the tie, took my jacket off. Different color ties, jacket on, jacket off, different environments, restaurant, train station, coffee shop, laptop out, on the phone. And all I was trying to do is just generate enough content to do a post every single day, just so that I could speak about marketing, speak about my business, my products, my services. And that was really the trampoline that I bounced off. And I actually did one post a day with that kind of format, that type of content, literally for about 2 to 3 years. And I was just so consistent, and I scheduled it out, and it enabled me to speak about the subject matter which would allow me to influence and persuade my customers towards my brand and business. And it's worked. The company's growing year on year. And that's what I recommend for anyone right now. Such a powerful tool. Put your face in front of your brand, no matter what the product, what the service. People trust people. If you're going to operate in the modern ecosystem of business and you're a startup in particular, day one, you have to see what is your tactical advantage. And I like to call it the USP, the key emphasis on it being you. You are the most unique selling point in your business.
Yeah, there's some awesome points there, Aaron. And what I want to touch on, just a couple of things there, is you said early on about trust. So do you think that also comes by way of having a lot of touch points? So a lot of people, I know when they start, they think, do they focus on like one thing, or do they spread themselves thin and they go into all different areas? So two things, a two-part question, I suppose, is one, I imagine the more touch points you have in regards to where people can land on you as a business or as a brand, the trust then naturally builds because you're out there a lot more. And then the second question off of that is there a fine line between quantity and quality?
100%. So for me, I focus on two platforms more than any other. And that was Instagram and Facebook. And that's simply because of the advertising tools that we have. Because when you have this content going out into the ecosystem, people start viewing it, engaging with it, start discovering you through your content marketing strategy. Then all of a sudden you're building audiences, and these audiences can then be targeted through Facebook ads for very, very low cost, which means now you don't have to hope that the algorithm is going to show you. You can just pay for that privilege and get in front of people who are showing you interest, but haven't actually taken the step forward to either buy your products or have a conversation. About spreading yourself too thin, I think that's a huge, huge trapdoor that so many of us fall in. I was on, LinkedIn, putting posts out, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I only started refining it when I started seeing where I'm actually generating conversations. And depending on your business, it'll be a different platform catered to your brand, product, or service. And recently I've started focusing a lot on YouTube. So my YouTube watch time, I found some experts, started asking them the right questions. I've been doing YouTube on and off for 6 years, right? Very, very thin, no strategy, just trying to upload content, hoping it would take off, and it didn't. And YouTube for me has been one of the hardest platforms to crack. But I was on and off with it, but I wasn't seeing immediate returns. So that's why I turned to more instant kind of gratification platforms like Instagram and Facebook, where business owners are often spontaneously scrolling. They've got a little bit of time, and then bang, they can take an action really quickly and get you into a conversation. Whereas through YouTube, it was a bit more long-term focused. People weren't having those conversations as quickly. So for me, I was a startup. I needed those conversations right now, today. You see my content, reach out, speak to me now. And that was what worked for me. However, now I've actually, since working with this kind of YouTube expert, I've started generating over 150 hours of watch time a month. In the last 28 days, my YouTube content has been watched for 150 hours. And that, for me, being a pay-to-play marketer, is absolutely insane. We would to pay for 135 hours of consumption. We're talking tens of thousands of pounds in ad spend. But what we're talking about with YouTube, right? And this is why I was really interested when one of your community members actually said, you've just completely you've narrowed down everything to, I think it's just YouTube, and you've stopped with Instagram and stuff. And I thought, that's a great move. That's a really smart move, because it's longer form content as well. And now that I don't need those instant kind of conversations, and I can just build a community, build longer form content, serve more, give more, and my ads are just running and doing what the ads are supposed to do anyway. And my social media is all running on autopilot in a sense, generating inquiries. That's where I can really now start focusing, like yourself, on longer form content, because I'm more interested in people who consume longer form content. So yes, you don't want to, to answer the question, definitely don't want to spread yourself too thin. You want to focus on the areas that are most impactful for your business right now and the type of people you're trying to attract. More short form content is going to bring shorter attention span people and it's going to bring more spontaneous clicks, whereas longer form content is much more calculated. You can build much deeper relationships before you have those interactions. But in the beginning of your business, when you need that instant return on energy that you're putting into your social media, there's no better place for me than Instagram. Still is primary. It's where we do the most business. It's where we create the most revenue. And if I was going to recommend one platform over everything else, it still has to be Instagram.
Yeah, I'd agree. Everything you've just said, I would totally agree. I think to get the work done, Instagram is the here and now, as in, like, if you want to get that business through the door, your exposure's instant. Like you say, you get that gratification. And like obviously the lady who you were on about, who we were talking about, I know how much she wants me to come back onto Instagram. And the funny thing is, I will actually be coming back onto Instagram in the new year, but I knew that I needed to get focused on YouTube. And like you say, it's massive for me, because although my channel has grown slower, but I've been broader in my topics, is that, like you said, I know that I've generated some decent business now off of YouTube, and they're genuine ones, because, I mean, like you say, when you see the watch hours, I mean, although my channel's small, I'm doing on average of about 470 hours a month. And the business that has come from YouTube, and obviously anyone watching, the point of this is actually that it's probably going to be really good business, because they can learn so much about you in their own time. So I absolutely second everything that you just said. But absolutely, when you're getting started, like you said, get yourself out there. Which then leads me on to, do you think, I have these conversations all the time, and actually there's someone, a good friend of mine at the moment, who's really sort of dipping the toe in, dipping the toe out, can't fully commit to like a YouTube and getting themselves out there. But do you think people realise the power of what monetization can actually happen through social media? Oh, well, obviously YouTube's it's owned by Google. It's technically a SEO, it's a search engine. Do you think people are slowly waking up, or do you think because they haven't felt the power of what monetization can do, do you think they don't realise it yet? But it's huge, isn't it?
I think a lot of the people, I think you're onto something really relevant there. A lot of people don't have the right offers to back up their content, in my experience. So a lot of the work we do on the consultative and strategic side is, before you even start thinking about creative, video, images, personal branding, what are you actually selling, right? What is your conversion goal? What are you actually looking to generate? And if that isn't crystal clear, and then often we'll get, well, we've got this product, we've got this offer, we've got this service, and this one ties into this one, and you're like, hold on a minute. If it confuses you to explain it to me, how do you think we're going to clearly communicate that through a video or an advert or a landing page or an email follow-up? So we call it a value ladder. And I think the real reason why people never get the result as quickly as they'd like it is because when it comes to actually bringing their message to market, they're influencing, persuading people into confusion. And again, another great saying is, when you confuse, you lose. You lose interest, you lose focus, and the marketplace will just drift on down that news feed, drift on through that search engine, and find someone else who can deliver that message clearer and in a simpler format to solving their problem. And that's, again, the big precursor to successful marketing campaigns is, do your offers and products and services actually stack up to solving the consumer's problem? And if it doesn't, if there's too many, if there's too little, and it doesn't solve that problem, your marketing isn't going to do, pardon my English, jack shit, right? And after doing this for 6 years, I can be blatantly honest with every business I speak to and that my team speaks to, because we're not interested nowadays in taking any business on which we don't feel can have 100% success. It's just boring. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the ad spend, the energy, the effort. So if we can see that a product's had, really limited traction over, let's say, a 6 to 12 month period, no marketing campaign is going to be able to sustainably bring that to the market in a profitable manner, because the market's already speaking on behalf of that. And now, when you have those issues and challenges beforehand, when bringing it to social media or any kind of channel where you're trying to get the marketing messages out, you're always going to suffer. And because of that, people don't get the result. And it might not be a dramatic thing. I've just given some extreme examples, but it's the subtle kind of nuances in people's products and offers that don't hit the mark, that don't have the level of, impact that they should. And those small little adjustments that need to take place aren't. And they get on the platforms, they don't get the return, they don't get the Instagram messages back, they don't get the booked calls, they don't get the YouTube comments that lead into conversations, and they go and search you up on Facebook and message you there, the emails, they don't get any kind of conversion or clicks, because the primary thing isn't there, and then they give up. It doesn't work. And then also, because one platform doesn't work, then they get taken into the hamster wheel that I call it. And it's okay, this platform isn't for me. Instagram didn't work. LinkedIn didn't work. YouTube didn't work. All right, now I'm dancing on TikTok, doing all these shaky moves and putting words on top. Like, it's the hamster. Oh, TikTok didn't work. Oh, maybe I should have stuck at Instagram longer. And then it's over and over and over again. And now all of a sudden, their product hasn't improved because they're too busy trying to market something that isn't ready for the marketplace. That's where I'm at with that.
Do you know, it's so funny because
it's not nice to hear that. I know some, whoever people hear that, and it's really not nice to hear, because you think, no, it is great, but listen, the great determination, the great determinator of your product's value is how many people buy it. That's the measuring stick. Simple.
But it's also true, that sort of acronym of focus, isn't it? Finish one course until successful. Because if you flitter from one thing to the other, 6 months pass and you think, what have I done? You haven't really. That's why, again, just going back to why I came off Instagram, is because one, it was taking up too much time where I wasn't giving my clients enough attention, or what it was is I missed one opportunity, and that was down to a lack of attention to detail, and I missed that opportunity, and I was like, I need to come off. I was consuming more than I was creating. Essentially, the value for me was return on time invested was that metric wasn't matching up for me. And sort of going back to that and going into your points is that YouTube, as you know, is probably one of the hardest platforms to get engagement, get conversations. Like, if you're going into YouTube, you have to be determined, consistent, disciplined, and it's very lonely. I mean, other platforms, but you really have to be focused when you're sitting there and you're talking to yourself, or you're in a room. You have to know that there's an outcome. And what I just want to reiterate is what you said there is, like you said, you have clients come to you, and I suppose anyone watching this, is you really have to know your outcome. Like, if you're going to start something, it's just the same with investing. I would never invest in something unless I know the end goal or what I would like to achieve from it. So brilliant, amazing points. And monetization, the power of it is huge if you nail it, absolutely nail it. I want to go back to quality over quantity, and I want to ask, because I think there's a very divided opinion, and people, this is something that I know people perhaps delayed a time with, is that, do they go and pick up some really nice equipment? And what I'm on about, do they go buy a really nice camera and start as you mean to go on, which I'm a big believer in, or do they just quickly pick up the phone, plug in a cheap little mic, get it attached, and just start putting out content? Is there a fine line?
Yeah. So you're talking about brand over sales in that, brand versus sales,
and the image of it. So if you put out really high quality imagery from a really good camera, really good audio, you know what it's like. I think because I've been in YouTube now for a little while, I know the importance of, I want people to go back over that timeline. So for someone starting out on Instagram, do they take a lower resolution photo, or do they go for a higher, or do they just get the image out there?
Yeah. So if there's an argument that authenticity wins, right? And if you do it just off the cuff, low tech, low quality compared to, let's say, a 4K video, then you're more authentic, and people respond better to the authenticity than anything else. But I think there's a balance, and there's no one's right or one's wrong. I think, for example, my advertising content that we put out, we call it hero videos. That content is pretty highly produced because I want to be the example that I want to set for my clients in that sense, because I'm selling advertising as a service, content creation. I want to be the role model that they want to aspire to create something similar to. So if I put out some low quality, off the cuff stuff, I have done that many times. I still do. It still has a purpose because it seems more authentic and in real time. However, the main stuff that we do for advertising is high quality, and we put a lot of time and effort into those kind of storyboards. But then when it comes to the daily content and the daily social media habits, which we promote for all of our clients, just maintaining and nurturing people in your kind of attention environment, the people who are paying attention to you every day, that is for me much more manageable and much more productive if you do that, with a cheap, not even a microphone. You can have your Bluetooth headphones in and just having your phone in your hand, sharing things directly with your audience. That also means you can get a higher volume out because it's not so premeditative, and people can actually, appreciate that kind of raw energy behind the content. But when it comes to advertising, it's different, because advertising, there's a difference between the audiences. The people who are consuming daily Instagram stories, they'll know who you are. Even if they've only seen you once before, they would have had to follow you, or they've just discovered you through your Instagram profile. The advertising, on the other hand, you're going out to tens of thousands of people a day, a week, whatever your budget is. And these are the first impressions you're ever getting with these audience members. So for first impressions, I have to say higher quality, higher production is a win. But when it comes to, that daily engagement, that nurturing and that call to action kind of steps that we put in place and the strategy we have for that, off the cuff, holding your phone is absolutely the most powerful thing you can do, because, the post-production, and then, hyper producing content it's become so easy now. Instagram have introduced captions, about 6 months ago, where you can just have the captions. People used to have to do that manually. I had to do that. Our clients, we used to have to put captions on their videos because people listen to it on mute, so they won't see or hear what you're saying. We've got captions now on Instagram stories. We've got all these features that mean that you don't have to go and produce great quality stuff away from the platform. You can do it all natively within the app. And there's a reason they've done that. It's because it's so powerful, and they want to keep people in Instagram creating as much and uploading. And look, per day, there's 95 million images and videos uploaded to Instagram. So you're not going to compete with that volume of content. So of course, you need to make sure that even though you're not shooting it in a high production value setup, your daily content, it still has to be valuable. The value should be in the information you're sharing, what you're showcasing. Are you entertaining people? Are you educating people? What kind of content theme you have and what you produce is more important on the daily side of things than the actual setup. And look, these phones we have, the majority of us have the next upgrade. We're all getting them, right? We all just think, what, why not? And they all can shoot. Often people are using they're not using the optimal setting because it takes up loads of memory on their phone to have a 4K video. These things shoot 4K, so you can get that level of quality on these phones. Will it be the same as a Sony A series camera or a Canon DSLR? Probably not. But do you need it to be to get the result? No, you don't. You just need to have valuable content, hitting people's emotions, winning their hearts and minds, and solving their problems. If you do that, you're going to make money on social media, and the production quality won't be a big issue.
Oh mate, I think there's so much value in this. Like, anyone watching, this is almost like that ultimate guide, because what you've just said there is literally nail on the head. And I want to pick out the last couple of points there from what we were just talking about. Is in you like you said, the phone quality now is so high, the resolution is so good. So one thing I have found recently, and I know Instagram can be exactly the same, and I know when you jump on those stories, people can get to know you. That's getting to know you, the brand, and it's sort of following that journey, and that trust builds along the way. Is the power of such things as like TikTok or YouTube Shorts is something. Obviously, we've still got that beta version that's slowly formalising over here in the UK. But what I found recently is I put out 3 YouTube Shorts, and within the last week, it's done over like 8K views now. And it's racked up nearly over 100 hours of watch time for 3 videos. That were 51 seconds long. And it just goes to show the power of the exposure. And what I would say as well, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but if you throw enough shit at the wall, I suppose something will soon stick. There's that as well. So some amazing points. What I want to finish on, Aaron, is anyone watching this that's pumped, ready to go, and I hope there are people that have watched this thinking, right, I've got to jump into marketing, is I find a lot of people will fall flat because they don't have a structure. Because although marketing, I think what I'm trying to say here is you won't profit from day one, whether you're a business, whatever you're trying to achieve, but you still need to start as was a business, basically. So you have to have the mentality of a structure. How important is being disciplined and getting up every day and applying 2-3 hours to your marketing and really grinding into it?
Look, again, it's very important. The one thing I would say as a starting point, which so many people struggle to overcome, is speak to your customers. If you start every day and you think about the one thing that you need to do in that day, speak to your customers or your potential customers of the future. Don't speak to everybody who follows your social media profile. Keep it about your customers. Will that, disengage your mom, your cousin, your best mates, your family, your friends that you went to school with? Will all of those become disengaged and alienated because you're talking about the problem you solve for your customers? Yes. But what most people don't want to do is alienate and push all of those people who actually engage with their content and support their startup or their small business. And because of that, their message is just always so vanilla. It never hits. You're never talking directly to the people that matter ultimately the most to your business success, which are the people who are going to send you money. And honestly, I've had this conversation like a million times with a million different customers. Why are you talking about X, Y, Z instead of talking about problem one, problem two, solution one, solution two that you bring to the marketplace? Why? Because people aren't interested in hearing about my product or service. It's boring. It's not sexy. It's X, Y, Z. All the obstacles and the objections they have, and those are the things that I see the most in terms of, a structure missing. They never get to the structure part because they convince themselves that none of their customers exist on their social media platforms. But the problem is, because it's that chicken and the egg thing, until they start speaking about those customers, until they start speaking to those customers and the problems they can solve for them, they're never going to arrive. They're never going to come. So when you need a structure, the simplest structure you can have is, when I produce content, it's all about content. If I'm producing something that I'm going to put some money behind and run and find new people to introduce them to who I am, that needs to be a specific type of content, short form, straight to the point, hook them in. But for most people who don't want to spend money because they don't have the skill or they don't have the confidence in their sales to actually occur, either they can't sell their products, haven't got that proof of market, it really comes down to just the one simple thing, which it becomes a habit when you get good at it, which is just daily documentation of what you're doing. And then the question comes up: what are you actually doing? Everything I do is not interesting, and nobody be interested in me having a coffee. It's not about the coffee. You posted a photo of you having a morning coffee isn't about the coffee, but with you having that coffee there, you can take an image of that, and then you can start talking about all the problems your customer might be facing today. It's an excuse to speak about your business and what you can do for people. That's the simplest structure. Oh, you're having a coffee, you're having a meeting, you're walking to a meeting, you're walking back from a meeting, you're sitting in your office chair, you're at your desk, you're about to shoot a video. Just tell people what you are doing, because if those people who are watching that content aren't the people who are going to be your customers, one thing you can guarantee is they'll know somebody who could potentially be your customer. So even if that inner circle isn't the people that are going to buy your products and services, or aren't the people who are going to buy your products and services, think about the bigger scope. You're now becoming known as the go-to person for what you say you can do for people. That means when a recommendation is needed, you're the first person who comes to mind. And all you need to do from your social media, just to finish off, is you just need to become the number one person that when somebody speaks about that subject matter, they say, hey, you got to go speak to Aaron. And that could be about both of us. Love it.
Oh, amazing finish, mate. I absolutely loved it. And I took so much away. And actually, it's funny, one thing I'm really going to take away now, and just my final point, is we have so many options to put polls out. And just a little tip, I find that putting polls out, I suppose this is my bit of an insight trick that I do, especially on LinkedIn, put a poll out, which is going to get engaging answers, and then direct them because they've been engaged, and then contact them. We have all these different options of putting out polls, which is basically a way of throwing that fishing line out. Whoever hooks on, just have a chat. So, mate, I loved all of that. There was so much value for me. So thank you so much. But also, I think that's going to be huge value and literally nail on the head, ready for 2022, that interview. So, Love this, mate. Thanks so much for coming on. Aaron, if people want to reach out to you and get in contact, where can they go, mate?
Aaron@socialagendas.com, or you can find me daily on Instagram, Aaron_brunch. Best places. Thank you for having me.
Mate, it's an absolute pleasure, and we will speak to all of you very soon.